Hello out there. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. This is Danita Ogondiga with Grief Talk. And I'm just so excited about tonight. I'm so excited about what you're going to hear. This webinar is called The Silent Scream, Healing from Abortions, Miscarriages, and the Loss of Our Children. We are blessed tonight to be able to have two dynamic women who have lived, have loved, have lost, and have been able to successfully come back from the brink of pain associated with grief. And they have been able to just be strengthened by the grace of God to be able to share their story with you. There's no doubt that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And it's no doubt that these women have gone through the fire, but God has blessed them to be able to come out without the smell of smoke. Tonight we're going to talk about the silent scream. You know, there are different chairs that are represented, here tonight. And the fact of the matter is that everyone approaches grief differently. Some of us, based on our historical values or what we've been taught in our home, we may have been taught to kind of push things under the rug, to not deal with them, or to really suck it up and just deal with it. And therefore that created a lot of isolation. We may have been taught in life to not, recognize when someone is in pain, but to just give them sympathy. But how many of you all know there's a clear difference between empathizing with someone and sympathizing with someone? When it comes to issues of abortion, when it comes to issues of miscarriages, when it comes to issues of the loss of children, that is not the time to tell someone that there is a silver lining by giving them the well, at least speech. Well, at least you can, get pregnant again, or that you can get pregnant. There's no need to bring that to someone. And clearly within our society, people have been taught to reign more supreme with sympathy rather than empathy. But tonight we want to be able to teach you and educate you through Grief Talk to show you that there is a better way to look at separation that occurs, from this life to the next life. When you have an abortion, that's a personal decision. And whatever the decision is that you have taken to bring you to that point of decision, whatever it is, you still need restoration and healing after. You still need the opportunity to be able to heal and deal with the situation after. There may be some raw feelings that you carry well into 22 years, and you wonder why you act the way you act and you respond to the way you respond. In the scientific community, they call it trauma centrality. It's real. It's how we choose to respond to issues that can set the course of our future. When we take the time to process our grief, that will help us to be able to be more productive. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of people have not been given the tools that they need. We live in a society that's terrorist-ridden. We have a lot of terrorist attacks. And how many of you all know, everywhere you turn, people are wanting to put together emergency management plans. FEMA, GEMA, all these other people want you to be able to respond. The rations and the people that are doomsday people or whatever. But how many of you all know, when it comes to the loss of someone day in and day out, we need to be able to have a preparation plan, some type of plan that we can put together that helps us to realize, whether we are in the church or whether we are in the community, when we are separated from someone that we have lost, someone that has lived on this earth, someone that we have carried in our womb, we need to be able to be given the time to be able to acknowledge that this death occurred. We don't need to be able to be told that miscarriage is a simple surgery that needs to be corrected so that we can move on and get back to work. No, we need to be told that, you know what, I don't know what to say to you, but I'm going to let you know that I'm here for you. You don't have a funeral when it comes to miscarriage. You just have something that was real to you, growing inside of you for how many ever months or weeks that it was. And when that separation occurs, it has to be acknowledged. So we want to take the time tonight to be able to acknowledge everyone in this chat room, everyone on this call that has went through the terrible pain of a miscarriage. We have Queenie Brown here tonight. I am so thankful that she has taken the time out of her busy schedule to be able to talk to us tonight about the things that she has gone through as it relates to miscarriages. She in no means is trying to, amplify her situation, but she is just trying to be a voice of encouragement to people that have gone through this situation, that have found themselves in the silence of nights screaming out for help because no one that they have gone to, the funeral director, their boss at work, their mate, no one has been able to comfort and console them. They've been able to just isolate themselves. We don't want that to occur tonight. We want to encourage them that you can find peace after a miscarriage. You don't want to replace the loss. That's never the case. But God can give you the grace to find healing, to be able to move forward with your life, knowing and remembering what you lost, but also knowing that He will also give you more and more, because that's just the way that He is. He's that kind of God. So I'm so thankful that Queenie is here with us tonight. We're also thankful she's a published author, and she's going to tell us more about her book on loving yourself and how to be able to gather the things that you need to be able to love yourself. So she's going to talk about her supernatural birth process. It's going to be awesome. We also have Sandra Coley. She is a woman that has just been through a lot in life. She has lost her child, her only child. And how many of you all know, again, motherhood is not something that is to be toiled with. This is Mother's Day. And a lot of times the main thing that you don't want to think about on Mother's Day is the fact that you have been separated from your only child. But God has blessed her and equipped her and strengthened her today with an amazing strength that only He can give. She has gone through the snot, the tears, the crying, the numbness. She's gone through those things to be able to come here with us tonight to share with you that you can survive. You can make it. So I'm so thankful that she is here. She is just completed her doctorate. So her name is Dr. Coley. I'm so happy that she's here. She is a chaplain. She is on fire for God. But most importantly, she has a heart for people, and she's going to talk to us about some myths within the African American community that we really need to be mindful of as it relates to separation. She's going to take us step by step through the process that she went through when she lost her son. So, with that said, I'm going to take some water real quick. Jesus! Okay, so I want to take time to acknowledge everyone that's in the chat room. Patrice, I see you. Thank you so much for everyone else. There may be a lot of people that may be on the call that may not be in the chat room, and I can understand why you may not want, to do that, because it is a very personal issue. But I just want to encourage you. Hi, Sharon. I want to encourage you. Do not feel as though you have to be in isolation. I know social media is social media, and some people may not feel comfortable, sharing the issues of their heart, especially if it's still fresh. We completely understand that. So if it is your comfort to just listen and not chat, that's fine. That's no problem. But I just want to take the time to acknowledge and to thank everyone, whether you're on the call watching or you're in the chat room. Thank you so much. Okay? So with that being said, we did a random picker, and I'm happy to announce that I'm going to give away a free copy of my book, Overcoming the Orphan Spirit, tonight. That's in the chat room. Remember, I told you all to log into the chat room if you could. So I just want to say that Sharon Jackson, this book is for you. So at the end of the webinar, if you can just make sure that I have your mailing address, I will send you a copy of this book. So to launch off tonight's conversation, the orphan spirit, as we talked about with the webinar, how does it relate to this webinar? It does. The fact of the matter is, when we go through loss, whether it is the loss of a child or whatever the case may be, we go through a situation of identity where we don't know who we are, where we have to relearn who we are. Sandra's going to talk about that in more detail, about how she had to go through the process of learning how to be God's beloved when she lost her only child. I'm sure that many of you can probably relate. If you've gone through a miscarriage, you've probably prepared all of your life, prepared all of your months to be a mother. And when that child is no longer there, what do you do? So identity is a major part of our healing. So I'm happy that both ladies are going to be able to share that perspective tonight. So with that being said, I'm going to step back because y'all know that I can talk. You know that. But I'm not going to talk tonight. We have two qualified, capable, anointed women that are going to talk tonight, and I'm going to give them free reign. So before we start, I'm going to just ask Sandra and Queenie two icebreaker questions. What is it that you want the people to be able to get out of tonight's session? Sandra, I'm going to ask you that. And then Queenie, I'm going to ask you that. And then we're going to step back, take a sip of water, and dive into tonight's webinar. Okay? So Sandra?
Yes.
Sandra, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think it's code. And so I'm going to keep up the best.
Okay, Sandra, if you can hear me, just go ahead and try to talk, and we can see if we can try to troubleshoot as we go through. And to the people that are in the chat room, if you're unable to hear her, just kind of give us some voices too. Let us know if you can hear it or not. Sandra, can you hear us?
And there's an echo, and so I'm just going to jump in. The one thing that I want the ladies to walk away with is that there is life after death.
There is life after death. That's awesome. That's awesome. And it is a universal responsibility, I believe, that's equivalent to...
Danita, I'm going to switch screens because I think maybe you're on the other screen.
Okay, Sandra, while you're switching screens, Queenie, I'm going to ask if you can go ahead and share what you're looking forward to for tonight for the women and men that may be on this call.
What I want everyone to really get out of this is how much God loves us. And that regardless of what you're faced with, that he loves us so much, and he wants to see us whole. He wants to see us healed. And that he's creating opportunities like this so that we can tap into that wholeness and know that we're not alone. That this pain may be true for today, but he has a way of restoring us. That it's beyond our comprehension. So I just want everyone to know how much he loves us and that you're not alone.
That's awesome, Queenie. Thank you so much. And I just want to say hello to Sherry Hill Franklin. Thanks so much for being here. We're so happy. Robin, thank you for letting us know that her voice is delayed. So, you know, just keep in mind tonight, you know, as Queenie said, that God does love you. You know, and just know that more than anything, he wants to see you whole. He wants to see you healed. A lot of us, you know, as we go through the grief process, we tend to know that, you know, within society, once grief happens, is it possible for me to recover? The answer is yes. It may take a while, but it is possible. So we definitely want to stay tonight focused on the recovery. We know that there is pain. We know that there is grief, but we also know that there is recovery. So, Sandra, I'm going to give you an opportunity again. If you could please let us know, you know, what you're looking forward to for the women for tonight. Sandra, can you hear me? Queenie, can you hear Sandra?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you all so much for your patience as we try to work out the kinks of the webinar. We're going to keep working with Sandra to make sure she gets her volume controls up. So just continue to stay in expectation. Sandra? Okay. All right, just bear with us one moment, please. Okay. All right, so we're going to, Sandra, if you can hear us, my husband is going to give you a call to troubleshoot so that we can get you on, if you can hear me. We're going to keep moving, and Queenie, we're going to just ask you if you could. We know that you have a very powerful and dynamic testimony for how God brought you through some very traumatic situations in your life. And I'm just so thankful that you are here on this call tonight. And I'm just so thankful that I just know that without a doubt that a lot of the women and men that may be on this call are going to be blessed. And like I said, I know just from working in grief recovery, a lot of people are probably on this call that are not in the chat room. And I understand why, because it is often a private issue. Our job is not to try to expose, which is why one of the main things that I said before is that please share at your comfort. So that's probably why we're not seeing a lot of people in the chat room, and that's perfectly fine. So I just want you to allow God to just use you. And like I said tonight, you all, tears may flow from all ends. But it's absolutely okay. This place is safe. Tears are actually allowed here. They're actually allowed.
It's a great
thing. It's a part of the grieving process, and it's actually therapeutic.
That's right.
Cleansing.
That's right.
So it's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely fine. So Queenie, thank you so much for being here. And just please go ahead. Have your way.
Thank you so much, Danita. I just want to first say thank you for inviting me to participate on this call. There are so many people that are hurting, and I wouldn't have known it had I not gone through it myself, that it is a silent issue. We don't talk about it. And just to kind of give you all a little bit of background, when I turned around 30 years old, I started having all kinds of pain in my body, and my neck and shoulders got really tight. I literally couldn't turn my head to the left or right to drive. I was on disability. I was ultimately diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and my neck and shoulders were so tight that it literally pulled my spine out of alignment and caused 2 discs to rupture in my neck and 3 in my low back. So over the course of the next 10 years, my entire 30s, I was under so much treatment and taking so many medications, and I had a team of doctors, and it was just a horrible, horrible time. But of course, this was also my childbearing years, and all of my doctors told me that, Miss Brown, you probably should consider adoption. You're going through too much. You can't even stand to be hugged. How are you going to be able to hold a baby? How are you going to be able to stop this medication in order to carry a child? So I didn't think it was possible. And my husband and I were just, we had just decided that we were going to love on each other, and that was going to be our life. Well, in 2011, I think it was, God kind of started weaning me off of my medication. Incidentally, it was when I finished my book, The Self-Love Lessons, which I thought was quite apropos. So he weaned me off of the medication at the end of that year, and at the beginning of the next year, we got pregnant, and we were elated. Here it is. We didn't think it was possible, and now we're pregnant, and I'm 41 at the time, so that was already a miracle. And and so about 6 weeks into the pregnancy, my husband and I had a conversation, and we just decided, you know what? Everyone always says don't tell anyone that you're pregnant. They always say, you know, wait until after the 12 weeks. You want to make sure that everything's okay. But in our hearts, you know, that's in our mind was saying we don't trust God. We don't believe that this is going to manifest, and we're not going to celebrate in the manifestation of this child. So we thought we had a testimony to share. We're going to tell it. And we told everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody. And so the following, after we shared it with our family and friends, our extended family, we finally went to the doctor. And when we sat in the doctor's office, she told us that she didn't hear a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, we're believers. That's okay. You know, I don't care what you think you heard or didn't hear. You know, I trust God, and He's going to manifest, and it's going to be okay. And so we just continue to believe. And now at this time, everybody's congratulating us, and we still, in the back of my mind, I'll just speak for myself. In the back of my mind, I'm Lord, please let this work. You know, don't let this be true. What the doctor said, let this be a lie. And you know, people are still congratulating us, and we would go back every 2 weeks, and the doctors still would say, you know, the baby's not progressing. 2 weeks later, there's still no heartbeat. Right. And during that time, I stumbled upon a website called Misdiagnosed Miscarriage, which I think is really significant that women should know about it. And basically, the idea is that a lot of women are being told that they have miscarried, but there are some women who have elected to not follow through with the D&C, which basically completes the process surgically of the miscarriage. Some women have elected to not go forward with that process and to allow the miscarriage to happen naturally throughout their body. Mm-hmm. And when they went ahead and allowed the process to happen naturally, the babies turned out fine. And yeah, and now the children are 6, 7, 8, 12 years old, normal, healthy kids.
Wow.
And had the women gone and done the D&C, essentially they would have aborted their normal child.
Okay.
So because that happened, because we ran across that website and I started talking to women who had that experience, mm-hmm. we decided we were going to wait. You know, if this was not going to manifest, then we would allow my body to process it. If it were going to manifest, then, you know, God will get the glory.
Right.
So at about 13 weeks, one night, late in the middle of the night, I started cramping really, really bad, and I knew what was happening. I went to the restroom and I expelled the baby. And it was painful. It was sad. But I knew that I had a child. I didn't feel like there was nothing. Like, people think that it's nothing. That, you know, you just get up and you go, keep moving the next day. But in my heart and in my mind, I had already seen her playing in the yard, and I had already seen her hugging me and telling me she loved me, and, you know, all of that stuff. So it was a true loss. But what made it more challenging was that now I had to tell everyone.
Right.
And, you know, I found myself consoling the people that I was sharing my news with.
Yes.
I found myself having to help them keep it together.
Yes.
And I also, sadly, you know, and I don't want to belabor this, but I realized that a lot of people don't really know what to say when they don't know what to say. And sometimes they can say some of the most hurtful things and some of the most insensitive things just because they don't know.
Right.
And it prompted me to write an article, what to say when you don't know what to say. That was just kind of a tough love article, but we clearly are not correcting people when this happens. Yes. and helping them understand how their comments are hurting you. Right. And so in addition to their comments hurting me, I realized that their fears were planting seeds in me that I now had to uproot. You know, I started hearing stories of women who had multiple miscarriages, or I had a few women tell me that they had to deliver their stillborn babies and that they had held them in their arms. And, you know, that was heart-wrenching for me to have to hear their story. And my heart really bent towards them. But it also bent towards me, because now, you know, I want to get pregnant again. I want to have a baby. And now I have to uproot these thoughts of, you know, every night when I go to sleep, I'm dreaming about holding my baby and it's not breathing. You know, so that was a real challenge for me. And the way that I moved through it was to write that letter and to help women understand that, you know, this is a very sensitive situation, and you have to have empathy for the woman growing through it. She's dealing with a pain that you may not understand. You might have experienced it, in the past, but today you may not understand where she is. So just love her, tell her that you are there for her, and that you don't know what to say, like you said earlier. And then offer yourself. But beyond that, you know, don't ask her what the sex of the baby was. Don't ask, you know, all of that stuff. Oh my goodness. So fortunately, 3 months later, we did get pregnant again. And now, like as I said before, I had to combat those thoughts throughout the entire pregnancy. And what I learned is that when you miscarry a child, it steals your hope. You know, it steals the hope when you find out that you're pregnant. There is this elation that overtakes you, and there's this excitement and the new beginning of a new life being able to move through you and come into this world that you get to mold and you get to introduce them to love. And when you've gone through a miscarriage, instead of having that elation overtake you, you kind of want to keep it at bay.
Yeah.
You don't want to get too excited. You don't want to get too, you know, because I don't want to feel that hurt again. I don't want to go there again. So I'm not going to get too excited, at least not until the 12th week. Then I can be excited. But the truth is that you still hold that, your hope has been kind of crushed.
Yeah. Taken hostage.
Pardon me?
As you said, just taken hostage.
Right. And it's not even just always a conscious thing. Sometimes it's your thoughts you don't even have control over. I noticed that it affected my dreams.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's terrifying when you can't control your thoughts and your dreams. And anyway. So fortunately, though, we had the most phenomenal pregnancy. Now, just kind of taking a step back, in 2005, the Lord had revealed to me that we don't have to have pain when we deliver our babies. And, you know, he said, if you receive Jesus as your Savior, he died to redeem you from sins. Redeem you from the curse. And so the curse was pain during childbirth. If he redeemed you from the curse, there should be no pain during childbirth. Now, at the time, you know, I was on medication and all this. I didn't think the message was for me. I thought it was for someone else.
Right.
So here it is. Now I'm pregnant, and he's bringing this back to my remembrance that you know, you don't have to have pain. So I won't go into much detail about that because I share my entire testimony on a website, supernaturalchildbirth.com. But he took me through that pregnancy. I didn't have any symptoms of pregnancy. I didn't have any cravings, just nothing. I gained 5 pounds 4 ounces during that entire pregnancy, and my baby weighed 5 pounds 4 ounces. Wow. So it was a glorious pregnancy and a supernatural delivery. It was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Now, going forward, we wanted to have another baby. Now I'm 43, and you know, my clock is ticking.
As they say, right?
Right. You know, I don't want to be Sarah trying to chase my child.
Come on now.
Right. So, you know, my husband and I decided we want to try again. And earlier this year, Christmas Eve was a very good night. And we made a baby. And then at our 8-week appointment, we found out that there was no fetal pole. So here we were again. Do I believe God and trust that it's going to manifest and you know, allow this process to happen naturally if it happens, or do I go ahead and have a D&C? So we decided together that we would wait and we would allow my body to process however it was going to process. And then on February 28th, I found myself on the floor in a pool of my own blood. I was hemorrhaging, and I was home alone with my 11-month-old baby. And I was scared. My husband works an hour away, so he couldn't get here fast enough. And I had my doctor's office on the phone, and they told me they were calling an ambulance because they didn't want me to pass out with my child being here. Now imagine the emotion of all of that was just devastating. I didn't, it was just tough. So the ambulance came, and they did an emergency D&C, and we lost our second child. We're trying again. I trust God. I know that his promises are for me to have the desires of my heart. He showed me a manifestation of them in that little girl that I have next door that's driving her daddy up a wall right now. And while the pain is there, I still think about the loss, but I know the joy of the promise, and I will not allow the adversary to steal my joy anymore. I trust God. And so, I wanted to be on this call because when I shared my first loss with a lot of women, I realized that the reasons why they were sharing the painful stories with me that they were sharing was because they were still stuck in their hurt. They hadn't healed. And it was because I was sharing my story that they felt a kindred spirit. When you have a loss, you shut down. You don't want to deal with the emotions of it at that time. You just want it to stop. But then there comes a time when you can open up and you can share your story, but then there's no one to talk to about it until someone else feels that pain. And so it wasn't until I connected with women and they started sharing with me the hurt that they had gone through, I realized, wow, we are so injured. We're like the walking wounded. And no one knows that each other is hurting, and we're living out of these wounds. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share my story and to share the hope that God can do it. He always does it. He loves us. And whatever it is that your heart needs to heal, he will provide it. We've just got to learn to trust him. So I know that was a little over my time. I'm sorry.
That was perfect. That was perfect. And I think more than anything, the people on this call and the people in the chat room, if you can chat, let me know whether you agree with me or not. I think the fact that you're being transparent is just amazing. There are people that this has happened to, and they're not quite at a point where they can share, because it is still either painful or they're at a place where, it couldn't necessarily benefit someone because they have not yet dealt with it. And I think more than anything, you're being able to just share, the trials that happen, but at the same time, how you have set yourself like a flint. And you're not going to allow Satan to rob you of the promise. For a lot of us, that's what we have. We have the promise, and, I just love that scripture. And I forgot I forgot the scripture, but it just talks about how you didn't stagger at the promise through unbelief, but you gave glory to God. And I just think the fact that you are honoring God with your body, honoring God with every facet of this process, he is going to get the glory for it all. And that's one of the main things that we talk about, with Grief Talk. My mother and father were ministers, and I just think religion as a whole, has really taught us a lot of deceptive things that we should not talk about stuff. And to keep stuff at bay, that we shouldn't feel sad, that we should be strong, and be strong for others. As you said, you found yourself having to console the very people, that you were having to go back and tell that tell these things to. And really, that's not really the time for that. Um, People tell us that we can't necessarily feel bad, that we always have to be strong. Unless you are Hulk, or unless you are Popeye walking around with a can of spinach all the time, or someone that has what's that power drink, a Red Bull in their hand 24/7. We are not superhuman, but we are human. And the fact of the matter is, we really need to just come to that point of being and say, you know what? Even though I love God, even though, just like you, Queenie, you've been able to impact a lot of women, with your testimony, and men. You've written books. God has blessed you to be able to go and talk to people about your story. But at the same time, you know that when you are feeling the need that you have to be human, you grieve.
That's right.
And I just think that people really need to understand that you need to be human when you go through the process. You are not supposed to be Hulk or Popeye 24/7. It's just not possible. Loving God does not exempt us from trials. It does provide the opportunity for us to be able to have hope that we can recover, and for us to be able to allow Jesus to be the center, so that we won't attach our life to people or things. But we have to know that it's okay for us to be human and to cry. And time heals all wounds. I mean, that's just another myth that we've been taught, and to hear all this time. Time doesn't heal. God heals, and the fact that we take the time to grieve and process and acknowledge what has happened to us and how it has hurt us. I told someone this before. When I had this last 3 weeks of travel back to back to back, I found myself at the airport with my husband and my daughter, crying, bawling my eyes out, having to be away from them for 7 days. I didn't really want to be away from them, but I had to be away from them for 7 days. Now, that's 7 days of being away from them. Why am I not going to cry or grieve when I lose someone? It's just not realistic. And so we just really have to realize that it is okay. When Lazarus passed away, Jesus was among the ones that was there with the family, grieving with them. So he's touched with our emotions. He's touched with the things that affect us. He wants us to be whole. So, Queenie, I just really want to thank you. And I do have a question for you, but let me just ask one question. Sandra? Sandra, are you able to hear us now? Queenie, bear with me 1 second. I'm just reaching out to Sandra. Sandra, can you hear us now? Your microphone is muted. Please unmute your microphone. Unmute your microphones, Sandra. All right. Queenie, I'm sure quite a few people will probably want to know this, but I know you talked about it briefly. But when you went through the first miscarriage, and then, of course, getting pregnant with Chloe, how did you keep your thoughts and the conversations of others at bay for those 9 months? Because for those that have gone through miscarriages, like you said, it's really never that opportunity to the conscious opportunity unless you take it, which you did.
Right.
But that conscious opportunity to enjoy, like, when did you start going out and buying stuff, or did you wait, like most women do, until their 8th month? People like Tamar Braxton waited until she was almost ready to give birth to tell, because of the pain and the people and the mess that you got to fight through. How did you get through all of that?
Well, after after the miscarriage, I kind of had to get bold, honestly. And because everyone wanted to console me and share their story, so I had to stop them initially. There were so many people that I know they felt I was being rude, but I had to say to them, you know what, I know you love me, I know you mean well, and I am okay, I'm going to be fine, but I can't hear your story.
Right.
I just can't hear your story right now, and I can't explain to you why. But it's hurting me more to go there. So please just respect that I know you love me, and I know that just know that I'm going to be okay. I had to first stop the seeds from being planted
Right.
in them. And then I had to constantly cast down those thoughts. I mean, I would just the most horrible thoughts would come to my mind. And I would have to say, no, I cast that down. I will receive the promise. I will have a daughter. My daughter is healthy. She's whole. She's complete. Nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing lacking, nothing needed. I spoke the word over her.
Yes.
I was constant about it. And because what you have to realize is that when you go through a loss like that, you are what I always like to say is you're not in your right mind. You're just not. You can't be. That pain skews your perception.
Yeah.
And so you start to see everything through the eyes of the loss if you don't allow yourself to feel it. Yes. And I wanted to make mention of that because we get so afraid to feel. Yes. And we're afraid to feel because we think we're going to get stuck in the depth of the despair that will never come out.
Yes.
But the truth is that you have to go into that emotion in order for you to be able to see your way out.
But you know what? It's just so powerful that you said that because I'm just reminded of, several of the people that I work with Grief Talk. They often tell me, it's like an abyss. It's like an abyss. It's just a deep, dark hole that you just don't want to even step in. If you imagine, like Joyce Meyer used to talk about a room, just imagine that your house is just pitch black and you have to back yourself up into the deepest dark corner of the basement of your house and just come face to face with the grief.
That's right.
With the loss. And I know that it's different, but when I went through the process of losing my parents and I was 21, I remember I did not want to do that. I just did not. I went to drugs. I went to whatever. And as I'm told with people that have had miscarriages, they offer so many prescription drugs after the surgery. It's very easy to get addicted.
Oh yeah.
To numb the pain.
You want to numb it.
Because as I said before, in the employment world, when you go back to work, it's often seen as a surgery. Well, how did your surgery go? Did your surgery go okay? I'm hoping everything is okay with you. Let us know if you need anything. But they forget to say, or acknowledge the fact, I know you didn't see this in the obituary. I know you didn't see this in the newspaper because I know you're constantly reading your newspaper in the morning. But I just need you to know that this loss was very real to me. It happened. And there is a void there. And it's going to take some time, and it's just, being able to educate people. And I'm sure that, as you said before, you're having to probably even now, Queenie, go through this process of educating people about, what happened to you and your husband.
Right. And that's a whole nother thing. You don't realize how men deal with things differently. I'm thinking I'm the one that's growing through it. And when we got pregnant again, he was, I had to help him move through it because he's like, I don't want this to happen again. Are you okay? Are you, what's going on?
Yes.
But you're right. It's an education process, and especially with women who've not gone through it, because they don't understand. One, they don't understand the loss because it's not real to them until you see a baby. But then the other thing is they don't get that. They just don't get that there's so much tied to it.
Yeah.
And my train of thought, I just kind of left me,
No,
but it'll come back.
that's fine. While you're getting that, let me
Mhm.
just say, like you were saying before, a lot of times when people post birth announcements,
Mhm.
people don't really understand the story that goes behind, in front of those birth, announcements.
Mhm.
The number of miscarriages that were not reported. How
Right.
many children do you have? Oh, I have three, but I have two that I have five.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. You, it's. I'm sure that had to be
Mhm.
confusing,
Mhm.
or difficult.
You,
So, I have a question that I want to ask you, Queenie, and I want you to come back with that thought. But let me just ask, Sandra, are you able to hear us now? Sandra?
Hear you now, Danita. Yes, can you hear me?
back.
You made me
Are you?
happy. I wish I could play that song. Awesome. We've been waiting for you. Okay, awesome. I'm going to come back for you. I'm going to come for you, okay? Don't go anywhere. But, Queenie, let's go back to you.
Okay.
I lost my
Okay,
train of
well,
thought
to
now.
talk
So,
loud.
okay, I don't have a problem doing that. I can talk loud now. So, Queenie, can you come back and address that, please?
Okay.
Queenie, can you address that question? You remember what I was asking you?
Ask the question
You asked
again.
me.
It was for Queenie. I was basically saying, Jesus help me. Does anyone on the chat room remember what I was asking Queenie? It was good too.
I
Mm.
I think you were asking how do you deal with that with people when they don't get it.
Yes.
And I was saying to you that it definitely is an education process. You really do have to help them see that there's more to it than what they're thinking. And I was saying that it really applies to women who've never experienced it, because
Yes.
they really don't, especially if they've never even had a child. They don't realize how painful some of the words that they use can be. And so I just started telling the truth. That's one thing that we have a hard time with as women, and that's kind of one of the things that I wrote about in my book. You got to learn how to tell the truth, and you got to put your big girl draws on, and
Yes.
sometimes it might hurt someone's feelings, but if you say what you need to say in love, they'll understand it and they'll respect you for it, and then they won't go and hurt someone else, because that's essentially what's happening. Because
Yes.
we're not saying anything, they're saying the same painful comments to the next woman.
Yeah.
And so I just had to start correcting women. And one of the most beautiful things a woman said to me when she learned about my loss is, she said, "Now we both have a baby in heaven. We'll get to see them again."
Yes.
And I thought, praise God. You didn't tell me any of the other crazy stuff that I had heard.
Yeah.
It's a level of understanding and compassion that goes beyond um, that, oh, you just lost a baby.
Right.
You know,
And
and
go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
No, please, 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 go ahead. Continue.
I just want people to know that sometimes it's it's not comfortable to tell the truth and correct someone, but we got to be honest with people. We've got to tell them. We got to use our opportunities as teaching opportunities.
Yeah.
And so when a woman is telling you, what was the sex of your baby, and you just had a loss, we need to have the strength and the courage to say, you know what, I love you and I know that you mean well, but that was extremely painful for you. The question that you just asked me was extremely painful. And so
Yes.
in the future, I would really recommend you not ask a woman who's in this type of pain that question. I know you mean well, and I know you didn't mean to hurt me, but that hurt. And when they hear it, they can make a different choice.
Yes. That's beautiful, Queenie. And I would dare say, a couple of months ago, maybe, one of my favorite, two of my favorite women ministers, Sarah Jakes and Heather Lindsay, had actually posted on their blog or their Facebook about life etiquette that we need to share. And I think it's really important because, you know, a lot of times you may see a woman that may be a little thick in the middle, you know, but the fact of the matter is you don't know if that person, you know, has gone through something. They could have just had, you know, a miscarriage. You don't know what the situation may be.
Right.
So it's just best, to, you know, to just, you know, not pre-congratulate them and not assume that they're pregnant, you know, just because they could have just went through a surgery. I mean, you just don't know. It's just really, like you said, it's just time to be very sensitive to people's situations. And I just think, you know, historically, as I said before, a lot of us are taught that we, you know, we need to just cover up, isolate, you know, not talk about it, and that's going to make everything okay. But clearly we know that that's not going to make everything okay. What makes it okay, and the reason why we do things like this webinar, and the reason why, you know, Grief Talk is so important for me is just, it's just a crusade to just let people know that we have to start thinking about things differently. You know, Vicks VapoRub, for the longest, I knew that my mother used it, so when I had a daughter, I used it. At first I was like, why am I wiping all this stuff on this child? I didn't really know what it was going to do. I took a spoonful of sugar and dipped it in there and gave it to her, and I was like, was I supposed to do that? I remember my mom doing it, but I had to really come to that point of decision, like you said, is that's what Mama did, but did I really have a deep understanding or revelation about what it is that I'm supposed to do? We have a responsibility, a universal responsibility, to be able to help and understand the grieving process, to know that grieving is essential, and to be able to go through the process of healing so that we can help other people heal. It's essential. It's something that we have to do. It's most important. So, you know, I just really want to just thank you for being on this webinar. This is absolutely not the end of this. As I was saying before, God has blessed us to be able to have some partnerships that are on the horizon for, you know, these webinars. And I'm just so thankful, you know, organizations that deal with grief and bereavement in the scholarly community, at the university community, have expressed interest in our webinars. And I'm just so thankful that you know, some things are working. I don't know if it'll be a $3.2 billion deal like Dr. Dre, but we are in expectation that we're gonna make a mark. You know, we're gonna make a mark in helping people to grieve. You know, and it's gonna take people like, you know, like Queenie and people like Sandra to be able to, you know, to have women and men confront truth, because it's a very difficult process when we're talking about confronting truth, because it means knocking over those elephants in the room that we never really wanted to deal with. And we're gonna have to do that if we're gonna get free and if we're gonna move forward. So with that being said, I don't want to stop the conversation. Keep the chats going. But Patrice, you're funny too. Sandra, you've been so patient, and I'm so glad we're able to get you on again. So, Queenie, don't go anywhere, because I know that there are going to be more questions that may come up. But, Sandra, are you ready? Sandra, are you ready? Sandra, are you ready? Okay, so I'm really, oh yes, we can hear you. I'm really happy tonight to give you all, to Sandra, to give you all, give your way to the chat room and everything.
Can you hear me?
Share with everyone. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. I want you to share your story, what happened to you and your loss, and how you were able to recover, and the cause that came out of all of this.
Okay, I lost my son, DJ, 20 accident and died. And I think I'm being decided he wanted to be an organ and tissue donor. And at 15, coming home and announcing, Mom, I want to be an organ donor, I was like, I don't know, D, let's talk about that. Demetrius was always very conscientious. He thought things out well. And so when I talked with him about the mommy had been given to him, which was the fact that there is life, and he presented to me the resurrection of the body. And that conversation, wow, was so powerful coming from a 15-year-old. At the age of 21, when he went to renew his license, he had the heart placed on his driver's license at 21. Little did I know, 2 years later, I was going to have to carry out. Demetrius graduated from State University with a zero balance. He had received a 4-year scholarship, kept his grades up, and he actually graduated debt-free. And his drowning accident happened in July. And so just 7 months later, when I got the phone call that Demetrius had been taken to the hospital, and when I got there, and of course I'm praying, I'm an ordained minister, and I'm praying, and I'm praying. I prayed for being a minister. I went through so much pain. Is that there's life after death. Demetrius was my only son. And so I suffered what I call an identity crisis, orphan. If you lose a husband or a wife, you're a widow, a widower. But who are you when you lose your child? An identity crisis. Being an ordained minister, I went to the source, the only source, ministering to myself, that I was able to minister to my, not knowing what to say. Don't say anything, because in silence. There's power just being there. Not saying, so happy for where I am now. I am Danita, if you can still
Say again, Sandra.
hear me, could you?
I can't hear you that well anymore. Can you try to? Okay, Patrice said that you're breaking up. Can you hear us?
Okay. Can you find? Can you hear me better?
I can hear you better. Queenie, are you able to hear much better?
Not really. She keeps going in and out.
Okay. Sandra, we're gonna try a little
Yes.
bit longer, or probably about another 2 minutes. And if we're not able to hear you
Yes.
clearly, I'm going to ask that we reschedule this part of the webinar so that we'll be able to really get the fullness of what you are saying, because this is very important. The loss of a child, and like I said, the pain that you went through, the healing that you went through, and then the organ donation, that really, really needs to be talked about. So I'm just going to ask you to just try just for a few more moments, and if we're not able to hear you, we're going to just schedule a time that we can replay the webinar and just get you more clear with your volume controls, okay? So can you just try for a few more minutes, and if we're not able to hear you, we're going to reschedule.
Awesome.
Okay, do you want to just try to keep talking just for a little bit longer?
Can Can you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you much better now. Much better now. You can continue. Sandra? Sandra, are you there?
Yes. I
Yes, I can hear you.
just sent you a.
Okay. All right. I'm going to respect that. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to just ask you if you would allow us to, we're going to reschedule part 2 of this webinar to be able to give Dr. Sandra Coley an opportunity. We're going to refine the chat and refine the webinar with her so that we can be able to come back and talk about the loss of our children and her experience with losing her only child. And we're hoping that you'll be able to bring your friends as well as yourselves back to the webinar. We will publish it on no later than tomorrow evening and ask you to register and come back and join us for the webinar. There's a really powerful message in what she had to say tonight. It's powerful, just like Queenie's was, because she's talking about organ donation. And for a lot of people, they may be afraid of the conversation that talks about premature death and what to do with our organs. We don't need our organs when we go to heaven. And just talking to her and just having lived through that experience with my father, organ donation is something very near and dear to my heart too. So we're going to be able to give this a separate webinar, and be able to hopefully have an organ donation drive as well with her. So we're going to ask you to just be patient with us. Thank you so much for coming tonight and for being able to hear Queenie and her awesome testimony about the things that she has gone through with miscarriages. We thank God for the beautiful blessing that God has blessed you and Charles with your daughter. And we just want to give a shout out to your husband for doing daddy duty tonight. Awesome. Awesome. Make sure you give him some extra love tonight, okay? Give him some extra love, all right? I want to give a shout out to my husband, Darcy, who is managing our 4-year-old going on 60-year-old, Jesus. Oh, Father. Sandra, I want to thank you so much. I know we have some challenges with the sound, but I promise you we're going to be able to come back with your own webinar, hopefully on next week when I get back, so that we can be able to talk about organ donation and the loss of DJ and how God blessed you and restored you. And I just think, God always knows what he's doing. These conversations were very loaded. When we talk about abortion, miscarriages, and the loss of our children, that's 3 very heavy topics. So God always knows what he's doing. So tonight we can focus on what Queenie said. I would encourage you to go to her website, www.supernaturalchildbirth.com. Her book, did I say that correctly? Was that right, Queenie?
I'm sorry, QueenieBrown.com is my website. But
QueenieBrown.com.
Yes.
And her Facebook is I am Queenie Brown. Okay, so go to that and make sure you like her. Make sure you go to Sandra Coley on Facebook and become friends with her. I'm always there. You can always stop by my page as well. But thank you all so much. If you have any questions that you may not want to have published, you can inbox one of us. And we'll be more than happy to get the message to the person that it needs to get to. Thank you so much for joining tonight's call and tonight's webinar. We love you, and we just want to thank everyone. We hope that this is the start of your healing. This is the start of your hope. You may have come to this call hopeless, but I just want to let you know that nothing you can do in this life can be done successfully if you do not have God as your center. So I just want to encourage you, if you are going through the situations that you're going through and you're trying to go through them based on your own effort, you're going to run out of gas sooner or later. You're going to come to the end of yourself. And that's what leads a lot of people to addictive behaviors and, patterns once they face loss. But I would encourage you to reach out to something that's greater than yourself. Jesus' arms are always there. He loves you unconditionally. He is not meant to keep you in remembrance of the things that were troubling you. He is there to love on you. He wants to love you unconditionally. He wants to love you forever. So we just ask God to just reach out to you. If you find yourself in that situation and you want to give your life to the Lord, feel free to inbox me or Queenie or Sandra. All of us are qualified to lead you through the prayer of salvation and to teach you and to show you how you can get, into a Bible-based church, because that's really what the foundation of this is about. It's just letting you know that you don't have to go through the trials and the fires of life by yourself. We were never meant to brave the fires of life by ourselves. We need something that we can anchor ourselves to that will give us hope when we feel hopeless. So I just want to thank you for joining tonight's call. As I said, hopefully by tomorrow evening we would be able to post up a revised date for the next webinar so that Sandra can talk about her son and the loss of a child, and I will talk about abortion. We encourage you to come back for that. But thank you so much. We love you. God bless you. Remember, your trauma may have been yesterday, but your hope does start today. I love you all. God bless you.
Thank you for having us.
Good night. I love you all. Sandra, Queenie, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.